Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to an Italian progressive rock primer, 30 must-own albums. So basically, this is a show that we've been talking about doing here on the channel for quite a bit. We have talked about Italian prog on and off over the years. We've touched on Italian prog in some of our kind of like top prog albums of the 70s shows. But I wanted to do a show strictly on this particular form of progressive rock from this country because, you know, other than like British prog and to a lesser extent American prog, Italy is the country that you most often think of when you think of a country rich in the history of prog rock. Okay, I have picked out 30 albums that I think are must-owns. Okay, I've got all of them on CD to show you, except for I think maybe 2 or 3, which I just can't seem to track down. I know I have them, just haven't been able to find the CD. But and I tried very hard to not give you a lot of releases from the same band, although there are a couple of bands that they have, you know, a couple of very, very notable albums that they have to be on this list. So if you're someone who maybe has not listened to a lot of Italian prog, these are going to be the albums to look out for. If maybe you have somewhat of a familiarity with Italian prog, maybe there's some stuff here that you haven't heard, I highly recommend you do. One of the things, you know, we are going to be talking about 30 albums, so I'm going to keep the commentary on a lot of them to somewhat of a minimum. But what I will say, there are certain characteristics of Italian prog that I think are very indicative of many of these bands. There are some slight variations on some of them, and I'll kind of get to them as we go through the list. But in all cases here, and pretty much in every case here, the lyrics are sung in native Italian. Okay, there is a kind of romantic quality about the Italian bands, the Italian progressive rock bands, that is like no other. And while musically, a lot of these bands may borrow a little bit from kind of the usual suspects, right? Like old school Genesis and Yes, and some Gentle Giant, some ELP, some King Crimson, right? Obviously, a lot of those bands we just talked about kind of predated most of these bands by at least a little bit. Almost everything on this list, save for I think one album, are all from the early mid-70s. Okay, so this is, you know, this movement here, this Italian prog movement, came as a direct result of albums like The Court of the Crimson King and the Yes album, and Octopus, Three Friends, Acquiring the Taste, and ELP's first album, and the early Jethro Tull albums, right? And you know, all those usual suspects greatly influenced the Italian prog rock scene, and it was actually pretty busy for a couple of years. You know, specifically, we're talking about like 1971 through 75. The majority of what's on this list is from those couple of years. Okay, so, and I'm going to go alphabetically. I did not rank these, okay, which would have been almost impossible because these are all absolute classics. So they're not ranked. They're all alphabetical, so I'm going to start from A and go all the way to the end of the alphabet here. I am also going to drop the entire list in the description of the video below. So if you're someone who's having a hard time following along with the names of the bands and the album titles and all that kind of stuff, don't worry, fear not. Once you get done watching the video, I will actually have the full list, so you can kind of go copy that, paste it somewhere else, and go look up these albums or go buy these albums or whatever it is you want to do. Okay, so now that we went through all that, again, lush Italian vocals, loads of analog keyboards. If you're someone who loves Hammond organ, Moog synthesizer, and especially Mellotron, tons of it on almost every one of these albums. All right, the Italians love the Mellotron, they love the Hammond organ, they love the Moogs. So if you're really into that, you've come to the right place. Lots of acoustic guitar work on most of these albums. Really great electric guitar work as well. All right, some of these albums have violin or cello or flute, okay? A lot of different instruments permeating all these albums. And some of these have their heavy moments and their light, more tranquil moments. Definitely lots of atmospheric touches and pastoral passages throughout these albums. For the most part, some gorgeous stuff here. And a handful of these lean more towards the jazz fusion side of things. I'll talk about when we get there. So the first one I'm going to start in A is Alphataurus Self-Titled from 1973. All right, so this is a wonderful album. Again, a lot of the characteristics we just talked about, the great Italian vocals. Love the black and white photography here. Really nice acoustic guitars, bombastic guitars and keyboards at times. Really, really wonderful album. It rocks in spots. It's mellow in others. I think you'll find that a lot of these bands did a great job of kind of going back and forth through the more pastoral, folky sections to that symphonic, bombastic, progressive rock thing. Here's another one from 1974, Alusa Fallax. And forgive me if my Italian pronunciations on some of these are not impeccable. This album is called Intorno alla mia cattiva educazione from 1974. Another really nice album. This album is made up, some of these albums have a lot of like shorter songs. Others have, less tracks, longer pieces. And I'm going to try and show you as much of these, the booklets and things as I possibly can. All right, I don't know if there's much to show in some of these. Some of these CDs I've had for many, many years. Some of these might be out of print, so but well worth checking out and seeking out if you can. This one's on Mellow Records. The Alphataurus is on Vinyl Magic. Okay. All right, next. And just so you know, there are going to be some of these bands that have multiple albums that I'm not talking about. And I'll mention too on some of them that, the one I'm going to show is my personal favorite, but they have other ones that are really good. But specifically this band, this is Aria. Crac is the name of this CD. Okay. Aria is a very interesting band, very frantic prog, hints of jazz fusion as well, and these over-the-top operatic Italian vocals. Aria is a really interesting band. Crac. Crack the egg, crack, however they say it. There's the guys in the band right there. Here you've got, all the usual suspects when it comes to the instrumentation, but really wild stuff here. And like I said, if you, some of the Italian vocals and some of the bands is very soothing, very calming, lush and romantic. At other times it's like, over the top operatic type of thing. That's what you get with Audio. But instrumentally, brilliant stuff. And that is from 1975. Next up, this band does more of the jazz fusion thing. This is Arti e Mestieri. Tilt is the name of this album. Okay. Cramps Records. In fact, I think this was as well. So there you see both of those are on the same CD issue. This is from 1974. This is brilliant stuff. If you like kind of like, Return to Forever, Tony Williams' Lifetime, Mahavishnu Orchestra, that sort of thing. Arti Mestieri is wonderful. A lot of really good, intricate, complex songs and passages and things. Wonderful, wonderful album. And Aria and Arti Mestieri also have additional albums that are very strong too, but those are my personal favorites. All right, so now we come upon a band that they have a lot of great albums. And this is probably one of the more notable bands on this list. There's like 2 or 3 of these bands that are considered and always have been considered the leaders of this whole movement here. And that's Banco Del Mutual Soccorso, okay, otherwise Banco for short. And they've got, a lot of great albums. I picked my 3 favorites. So we're going to go with, bear with me a second here, from 1972, Self-Titled, Banco Del Mutuo Soccorso. All right, so this is, Banco, really interesting band. They've got amazing vocalist, okay, who does that kind of very beautiful operatic. So it's almost like he's like the Pavarotti of progressive rock, right? Long songs, amazing keyboards, right? Lots of really good guitar work, very symphonic. amazing. I mean, Banco is so Italian. You know, so most of these bands, you listen to it and they just sound so Italian. And if you are Italian, as I am, you'd know what I'm talking about. But amazing band. I've had the opportunity to see them live too, and just really, really good. So there's that debut from '72. Also from the same year, I believe, 1972, they released this album called Darwin. Okay, concept album. Great stuff. I'm trying to get, whoops, and as my CD falls apart on me. Time for a new jewel case for that one. All right, there they are right there. Wonderful, wonderful album. Very adventurous musically, very complex, but just very melodic, gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. And you're going to get a three pack from me on Banco, just because, I mean, they're that good. And the other album I'm going to talk about is from 1973. Io sono nato libero. Okay, hopefully I'm saying these right. 40 minutes of pure progressive rock bliss. All right, and no pictures of the guy. I wanted a nice picture of the guys, but none of these CDs have them. So, Banco Del Mutual Soccorso, otherwise known as Banco, mandatory listening if you're getting into Italian prog. All right, next up from... And I can't find my CD copy of this, from 1974, Biglietto per l'Inferno. Okay? Don't worry if you have no idea what I'm talking about or wondering, well, how do you spell that, Pete? I'll put it, like I said, it'll be in the video description below. Another really, really good album. Plenty symphonic, lots of good acoustic passages mixed in with all the symphonic stuff. Biglietto per l'Inferno. I never really know how to say that, but and it's self-titled. Okay, so that one also seek out. Next up, and I do have a copy of this, Campo De Marte from 1973, or Campo De Marte. All right, very cool album. Pretty rocking. A lot of mellotron, a lot of guitar. Really good vocals on this one. Let's see if we got anything to show. Not really. And this one is also, I believe, a Mellow Records CD issue. Mellow Records really, really have done a fine job over the years releasing a lot of this old classic Italian prog. Next up, from 1976. So this is one of the later ones on this list, but no less notable. And this is Celeste. And let's see, Principe de un Giorno. This is a absolutely lovely, lovely album. And just, you know, it doesn't get more lush and beautiful than this. Ciro, if you're watching, this is a classic. This is much more pastoral than some of these other ones. I would call this less kind of grandiose and bombastic than some of the other ones. Really, really romantic, laid-back vocals, mellotron, freaking galore. Acoustic guitar, freaking galore. There's so much mellotron on this album. This is probably, you know, if you were to ask me, Pete, well, what's one of the, 3 or 5 greatest mellotron albums or albums featuring the mellotron that's ever been released? This is probably, it has to be up there. I always kind of call this the White Album too, right? Just absolutely beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. And highly recommend that. Again, it's Celeste, Principe de un Giorno. Okay? All right, next up, from 1975, self-titled From the Cherry Five. Basically the band that would later become Goblin. Okay, we'll get to Goblin in a minute. This is a very cool album. Vocals, really complex instrumental passages, really catchy though and bouncy rhythmically. Very, very good stuff. Loads of keys and guitars. All right. Great rhythms. Highly recommend it. This is also, what is this one on? Prog Space? Something like that. Vinyl Magic. That's what we got there. Cherry 5. Check that out. All right. The next one. So here's the lone one that's not from the 70s. And I had to include this because I remember when I first heard this album, it literally blew me away. And guys, for those of you who are watching who really have kept up on the more modern stuff, I haven't kept up quite as much with the more modern prog rock albums. But, I'm going to share, there's so many really, really great prog bands who have come out since like the beginning of the 90s. And I've heard some bits and pieces from a lot of them here and there, but my collection doesn't include a lot of them, but I do have most of the releases from this band, and I saw them live at Nearfest once, and they absolutely blew me away. Again, this is coming more from the fusion side of things. DFA is the name of the band. Lavori in Corso from 1996. Man, if you love, like I said, if you love Return to Forever, Mahavishnu Orchestra, that sort of thing, blistering instrumental music. Just absolutely amazing. The musicianship is just top-notch here. So good. Kind of also, if you like Goblin, I would say definitely check these guys out. La Machera di Sera is the other band I was just trying to think of before that also is probably one of the better known of the more recent prog bands from Italy. Also Deus Ex Machina. It's another band that kind of came out in the 90s. Haven't really done much in quite a bit, but they were also pretty notable, in the last 20, 30 years. All right, so from DFA, Lavori, and Corso, we're going to go back to 1976. We're going to go back 30 years to Roller from Goblin. I got another white album there. So Goblin, very notable band for being basically almost like the house band for director Dario Argento's horror films. Okay, they did quite a few soundtracks and music for a lot of Mr. Argento's classic giallo and horror films from the 70s and the early 80s. But they did record a couple of proper albums, non-soundtrack albums. This is one of them. Fantastic stuff. Again, if you love the more fusion-y side of things, great keyboards and guitars, amazing rhythms, catchy stuff. You have to hear Roller. Absolutely spectacular. Next up, we're going to go to 1973. Actually, no, 1972, sorry. We're going to go with, we talked about these guys recently on the show. We did a separate show just on them. Il Balletto di Bronzo, YS is the name of the album, 1972. This is their second album, completely different than their first album. Amazing stuff. One of the best of the genre also. This is also a must-hear, top-tier album out of all these we're talking about. This is like, if you really like the symphonic, bombastic side of progressive rock, mellotrons and Hammond organ and heavy guitars, really complex vocals doing all sorts of different upper register, lower register, all over the place. It's noisy, it's chaotic at times, it's avant-garde at times, but if you love that sort of thing, some of these other bands do the much more melodic and pastoral, and you're not getting that here. This is just in-your-face, aggressive, progressive rock. One of my favorites of the genre here. Il Balletto di Bronzo, YS. All right, so next up, we're going to go with, from 1973, I Califi, Fiore de Metallo. Okay. Another really good one. A lot of lushness going on in this album, but again, plenty of symphonic stuff happening here. I Califi, Fiore de Metallo. All right, also, what else we got here? How about, here's one, if you like the Banco stuff, or if you like the very vocal-oriented, really over-the-top vocals, very kind of operatic, so to speak, I Giganti-Terra In Bocca from 1971. This is a pretty early one here. So again, another one of those bands that kind of took their cue from King Crimson and Gentle Giant and a little bit of Genesis. Really good stuff. I would definitely put these guys, in the same league with Banco or PFM, who we'll talk about in a minute. All right. Very cool stuff. Very symphonic. A lot of really good instrumentation on here. But very more vocal-oriented than some of these other ones. Another one that I do not have I have it, I just haven't been able to track it down, is Il Rovescio della Medaglia. And the album is called Contaminazione. From 1973, Il Rovescio della Medaglia. Another, that's a must here for this. Again, if you love all the analog keyboards and the mixture of acoustic and electric guitar and those just absolutely sumptuous vocals, I mean that's a must here. So check out that one. That's from 73. Also from 73, how about a little Latte e Miele-Papillon? This is another gorgeous album. This one probably, if I were to compare this one, similar sort of to the Celeste album, but maybe a little bit more rockin' slightly. Definitely one you want to check out. Loads of keyboards. This is a trio. All right. Really good stuff. Great vocals. Keyboard heaven on this one. Really, really good stuff. All right, so now we come to another one of those must-hear bands that actually have way more than a couple very notable albums, but I said, all right, I'm going to pick 2 of them. All right, but you can't go wrong with a lot of them. The band is called Leorme. All right, a couple of their early albums, they were originally a psych band, and then kind of got the symphonic rock bug, probably thanks to King Crimson, and came out with a string of albums that are really, really strong. I think their first truly great album was this one right here from 1973, which is it's a Leorme, Felona y Serona. All right, of course, got that wonderful painting there of some naked people, right, or at least the naked woman, right? Kind of like the Adam and Eve thing going there, right? A lot of early King Crimson on here. A lot of early Genesis. Loads of mellotron and organ and acoustic and electric guitars. A really, really wonderful album. And here you can see the inside. Some of the other releases from this band. I'm going to talk about one other, but there's a couple here. All of these here are actually really, really notable. Gorgeous vocals. Really gorgeous vocals. This is basically a concept album, kind of like almost like a rock opera type of thing. Really, really good. And just all the songs kind of bleed into each other. And the vocals, like I said, are just absolutely amazing. This, again, is another one of those bands, when you think of Italian prog rock, they're the top 3 probably. All right. In addition to Felona y Serona, we're also going to talk about Contra Punti, which was the follow-up, 1974. Must-hear album. Maybe a little bit more aggressive than the album that came before it. A little bit more rockier in spots. No less amazing though. Contra Punti from Leorme, both of those must-hears. From 1977, okay, this one's good, a little bit later in the decade too. Here's another great one. Locanda della Fate, Forse de Luciole non si amano più. Poof. I said a mouthful there. What all that means, I have no idea. And these guys were on Polydor. Okay, really cool album art there. Let's take a closer look at that in its entirety there. Look at that, huh? Beautiful. This is a really good one, folks. Really melodic, memorable songs. Loads of keys. Just absolutely gorgeous stuff here. Really cool arrangements. Dig that one quite a bit. And where are we going next? All right, so next, another one that I can't find. I know I have it. Maxophone from 1975. Really good. A little bit heavier. All right? I guess. That's what I say. Really good. Really good cover art, too. Kind of like if you like this. Very, very good album cover art. Maxophone from 75. Definitely worth tracking down. Next up, from 1973, Metamorphosy Inferno. Another really good album. A little darker. The arrangement's a little darker. But definitely hit upon a lot of the things we've been talking about. If you love Crimson and Gentle Giant, you'll dig these guys quite a bit. Really good guitar work. Keys are spectacular. Great stuff here. And this was, is this available on here? What's the label here? Don't know. It doesn't say. Oh, this is another Vinyl Magic one. Okay. Again, you got some of these, little indie labels who've done a great job of keeping this stuff, available to be checked out and purchased. All right, next up from 73. This is another one of the best ones out of all this. There's a couple. I'll probably give you my top picks of all these. It's kind of tough, but this is definitely one of them. Museo Rosenbach Zarathustra from 1973. This is amazing. Big and powerful, long songs, tons of really aggressive keyboards. Some of these bands, the ones that are, fall on the heavier side, they go with the Hammond organ and the mellotron, and they're approaching like, Heap and Purple intensity, of course, ELP as well. This is some really good stuff. This is potent. Great vocals, really powerful vocals. Like I said, this is definitely one of the ones sitting at the top here. You can make an argument for this one as well. From 72, Palipoli from Osana. All right, 3 long epic tracks. Well, actually, 2 long epic tracks and 1 tiny one sandwiched in the middle. Another really good one if you love Emerson, Lake and Palmer. and that early Genesis sound. You'll dig this. Really, really in-your-face vocals as well. You know, most of these vocalists and most of these bands, pretty damn good. So Osana, Palapoli. All right, so the next band, probably, arguably, my favorite out of all of these, arguably. They've had a long, long career. They've got a lot of albums. I will say their 70s stuff, most of it is pretty damn special. I've got 2 releases from them today. These are, in my opinion, easily their 2 best. It's Premiata Fornerio Marconi, otherwise known as PFM. From 1972, you've got Storia De Un Minuto. All right. Lovely stuff. This is, you know, again, one of those bands that perfectly blends symphonic rock with touches of folk and lots of Italianisms, right? Loads of Mellotron and all the analog keyboards. Lovely guitar work, both acoustic and electric. The vocals are just absolutely spot on. They would follow that up with... Did I grab the wrong one? Hold on. All right, Storia Di Un Minuto. All right, I grabbed the wrong one here. I wanted to bring L'isola di Niente from 74. I did not grab that one. That's going to be the one that's going to be in the list. I actually picked out Per un Amico instead, which, quite frankly, I should have had all 3 here because all 3 of them are absolutely amazing. All right, so why don't we do that? You're going to get 31 this list. So from PFM, you got Storia di Un Minuto, L'isola di Niente. I'm struggling with this Italian stuff, and Per un Amico. All right, those are probably the 3. They're amazing. That's to kind of start off their career. Then, you know, they started to get really popular in Italy, so the record label says, hey, this could probably appeal to, like, non-Italian audience, like the English, the British, and then the Americans. So what they did was they released a couple albums with a lot of these same songs kind of redone with English lyrics and vocals, right? But I prefer the Italian stuff. So PFM, another one of those that, you know, must have when you're talking about Italian progressive rock. Easily in the top 3. From there, we're going to go to another really cool band. Both of these are amazing. That's why I had to put both of them in here. Crelavecchia Laconda. All right. So they've got their self-titled release from 1972. Also on Vinyl Magic, the CD, right? This is fantastic stuff. Really good. Rocks in spots, too. Got some violin and all the keyboards and just really, really amazing stuff. Vocally, it's quite good. And then you've got the follow-up, Il Tempo della Gioia, however the hell they say that, Gioia, Gioia? Il Tempo della Gioia, okay? Another really, really gorgeous album. And again, more of these guys, you know, bring the rock. But a lot of those, you know, characteristics of this subgenre of progressive rock that we love quite a bit. And the last one on my list, also another one of those one-offs that, quite frankly, you need to have if you're kind of diving into this. This is, you know, along with the Museo Rosenbach, another one of those, okay, they put out this singular album and it just totally ruled. Semiramis Dedicato a Fras from 1973. First of all, I mean, look at that. Look at that album cover, the CD cover. I mean, it's just like, it's very striking, whatever it is, okay? And that just kind of, you know, that's what this whole thing is about. It's just, this one is like, I mean, look at that. Very cool stuff, right? It doesn't get more prog rock than that, people. And this is just amazing stuff. Fairly heavy in spots, very symphonic, full of big guitars, big keyboards, great vocals, very complex. Like I said, rocking in spots, atmospheric and pastoral in others. But man, exciting. Just exciting stuff. Semiramis Dedicato a Fras. All right. So there you have some really, really good stuff here that, like I said, if you're looking to dive into Italian prog rock, this is your primer. These are the albums you really should seek out. Okay, any of these? You want my top 5? I could probably do a top 5 here. Pete's top 5 favorites. All right, I'm just going to kind of go real quick and pick out a couple of them. And then, I mean, this is tough because so many of these are just like absolutely amazing albums. Oh man, how do I even do this? What did I get myself into here, agreeing to do this? All right, let's see. All right, well, and then this is not a slight against any of them, obviously, because these are all fantastic, but I am probably going to go... Oh, Jesus. How do I choose between the Banco ones? I don't know. All right, so probably my top 5 out of all these, I guess, is going to be this one from Banco. Felone y Sodona from Le Orme. All right, Storia De Un Minuto from PFM. All right, Il Balletto di Bronzo Is. And Semiramis Dedicato a Fraz. Probably my top 5 favorites, at least today. All right, I kind of put myself on the spot with that, but you can't go wrong with any of these. You really can't. So there you have it, everybody. Your Italian progressive rock primer: 30 must-own albums, or 30 must-hear albums, whatever. The 30 most important albums to me, anyway. So if you think there's any that I've really missed that should be, that you want to recommend to your fellow viewers, put them in the comments below. Like I said, I will put this entire list in the video description below. I'll throw it in the comments as well. So if you guys are looking, you're having, it's hard to, if you're not Italian, it's hard, pronouncing and remembering some of this stuff. So that'll be down there for you to check out. So visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Much more coming up tonight. Sydney Taylor's coming on the show. We are going to rank the albums of Bad Company, as well as give you our top 10 songs from hard rockers from the U.S. Mr. Big. So that's coming up tonight. What else do we got coming up tomorrow? Butch Jones and I will be doing a fun show where we're talking about some of our favorite album closers. That last song on an album that completely kicks ass. That's coming up tomorrow. We got Monsters Den coming up tomorrow. And then Friday morning, Martin Popoff and I are going to be doing another really cool show where we're going to be talking about our 5 favorite perfect albums. Those albums that we think from start to finish, absolute perfection. So that's coming up Friday morning. Stay tuned for that. Also over the weekend, Rich Catino and I will be ranking the albums of Swedish doom legends Candlemass. So lots happening over the next couple days. Lynn Versace also coming back on the show. On Sunday, we're going to be doing kind of like an opposite show of what we did last Sunday, where we did heavy songs from non-heavy bands. This time we're going to be doing mellow songs from heavy bands. Okay, some of our favorites. So stay tuned for all this and a lot more here on Sea Tranquility. We'll see you real soon, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.